Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Channel Maven TV. We've done something a little different here, and I would love your patience with us. We felt that it was important to keep the conversation going about racial injustice in the workplace. So our very own Akilah Morel, Senior Director of Channel Marketing at Channel Maven, has very graciously led this amazing panel of executives who find themselves in the channel and happen to be people of color. The conversation was so overwhelming and heartfelt that we wanted to keep it going. So we've broken this into 4 different episodes and would love for you to not only watch all of them, but also share all of them. We think this is a really important conversation. The first episode, which you'll see here, is all of the panelists recalling racial injustice in the workplace. So thinking about times and distinct moments when they have experienced that. Our goal here is not to upset anyone. It's really just to educate and to ensure that we've had a lot of people who don't know what to do to better support, who maybe don't realize that some of the things they say or do are contributing to the problem. And also that it's important for people to educate themselves before going to a person of color and putting the burden on them to educate you. So please enjoy this. As always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, heather@channelmavenconsulting.com.
Today, we're going to talk about a topic that is long overdue. And I ask that you watch and that you listen with an open mind and an open heart. We're going to share our experiences and our stories as it relates to racial injustice in the workplace. My name is Akilah Morel, and I am the Senior Director of Channel Marketing at Channel Maven. Now, honestly, I didn't think there was ever going to come a day where we could openly discuss racial issues in corporate, in a business setting. I didn't think there was ever going to come a day where we could openly share our experiences in a safe environment among the people that we work with every day. But I'm so thankful that in the past few weeks, the past few months, although it has come with pain and a lot of grief, we've been able to openly speak about these issues, and we've been given a platform like this one to do so. I'm honored to moderate this conversation with this amazing group of leaders whom you'll meet here shortly. We have Nicole Steele, Vernon Irvin, and Lori Cornmesser. And why don't you all introduce yourselves to the audience today, starting with Nicole.
Thank you very much, Akilah. As you mentioned, this is a really great topic, very timely, so just so excited to be a part of the panel. My name, as you said, is Nicole Steele. I work in the Global Partnering Marketing Organization at Click. And truly, the reason it was so important for me to be a part of this is because if we don't start to have an open and honest dialogue, we're not going to be able to move the needle forward and move it in that right direction. Black people have already been having the conversation about what it's like to be in the workplace for years, for decades. And now we finally have a large number of allies that are willing to, put their skin in the game and be part of the fight and to help us. And so, I feel if these organizations, along with these allies, don't start to have these conversations, these difficult conversations, change isn't going to happen. And I really feel that change is happening, and it's going to happen now. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori.
Hi, my name is Lori Cornmesser, and thank you for being brave enough to have this discussion. Not a lot of people are willing to kind of step into this. I work for a fabulous company called Infoblox. I run our worldwide channel organization. I've been in channels for about 25 years. I grew up in Silicon Valley. And I've had the opportunity to lead Silicon Valley Diversity Council and be part of helping to educate companies on diversity. I'm not a diversity expert. I don't have a diversity certificate. I just grew up in the Valley, and I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me and sort of represented sort of where I was coming from. So why is it important? I think it's important because it's important for humans. There's a big human element of this and being connected to other people that we stand next to. But in the workplace, it's also really important because a lot of our companies are diverse and they're global. And so being able to connect to them and are the people that we sell to and the people that buy our technology and services, they want to be able to see themselves in the companies that they represent as well. So that's why I think it's an important topic. Again, thank you for taking the time to do this.
Absolutely. Appreciate you accepting the invitation. Vernon.
Yep. Hey, Akilah, thank you again for a great invitation to join this esteemed panel with Lori and Nicole. Really appreciate the opportunity. As you said, I'm Vernon Irvin. I'm the Executive Vice President and Chief Revenues Officer for a global company called Everbridge. When you see and hear things like, unfortunately, Amber Alerts, or when there are hurricanes or earthquakes or pandemics, thousands and thousands of organizations use our digital platform to help keep people safe and businesses running. So it's a great human remit. And speaking of a good human remit, certainly I think this discussion is an imperative that must be told and discussed as it relates to making our world a better place. That sounds like a panacea, and I don't mean that. But there's absolutely, positively a burden on Black people and brown people in this world. I just conducted a worldwide seminar with our own employees, about 1,000 employees or so. And it was attended by over 700 people in about 7 different countries. And to a person to share sort of this global systemic problem about racism and inequality and prejudice is amazing to hear the consistency of the stories. But it was also amazing to hear the sympathy and that people care no matter what the demographic is and want to be part of the solution. So in the spirit of being part of the solution, that's why I'm here today. So thank you.
Yeah, that's great. And you bring up a good point. It's all about, we want to bring about change. We want to break down the barriers. Well, the first step is talking about it like we are today. And, I do want to let the audience know you may hear things today that make you feel uncomfortable. That's okay. We're sharing from our heart, and we're trying to help you be part of the solution. So I'd like to open up the first question to the entire panel is I'd like for you to recall and think back to the first time that you experienced racial injustice in the workplace. If you can share that with the audience, or perhaps it's the most blatant experience that you could share with us. Lori, why don't you go first?
Sure. Listen, I have the opportunity to view how others are treated sometimes before they really understand my background and heritage. My mother calls that my burden and my responsibility. So many of the things that I've experienced have been around sort of what I call backhanded compliments. I didn't know you were Black, or you couldn't tell that you were Black, or you don't sound Black, or you really don't have to tell anybody that you're Black because you look white. And that's usually a lot of the stuff that I sort of encounter as I kind of get into the workplace and they understand that we do come in different flavors and colors and, represent that. I've always wanted to be valued for my talents and my knowledge and the spirit that I bring to the business, and develop a really strong reputation. I've been very fortunate to align with people and companies that have allowed me to foster that, which has kind of led me where I am today. That doesn't mean I haven't bumped into things, but my parents, I remember them telling me when I was 6 years old, like, listen, the world is going to see you as Black, and no matter how talented you are, no matter how much you produce, you're going to have some burden and responsibility with how you're going to be treated and how people are going to return that to you. So I've always just worked really hard, and I've always shown up well. I'm first one in the office, last one to leave. And I've tried to do that very well, but I certainly have bumped into what I call those backhanded compliments that remind me of the, of the challenges that I have and the way that I have to kind of course correct people along the way, right? and still kind of find your own. So that's sort of my experience.
Right. Thanks for sharing. Vernon, how about you?
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to work sort of worldwide, and in North America, I can remember two examples. Probably the one that will resonate with this audience is being a corporate sponsor at a PGA event, a professional golf event in Washington, D.C., in a city called Potomac, Maryland. And there's a golf course there, a famous golf course there called the Congressional Golf Course, where they host many of the major events. This particular event happened to be sponsored by one of the very large telecoms, and company I worked for at the time, Sirius XM, one of the sponsors. And I had the opportunity to attend a pro-am. That's where you get to actually play with the professional golfers that are actually real good golfers. I personally am not a good golfer, and get stressed out when I'm around good golfers. Anyways, so I checked into the pro shop to register so that I could get matched with the pro I was supposed to play with that day. I happened to just come in from Hawaii, so I had a Hawaiian branded golf shirt on. And by the way, that's deliberate, because if I don't dress, I feel like if I don't dress a certain way, I get immediately placed in a different category that makes no sense. So I show up, I check in, I've got my golf shirt on, I'm one of the key sponsors of the event, and the manager of the pro shop asked me to report to the back of the pro shop, because that's where the caddies should check in. And that was obviously, those sort of things just take you by such surprise that you just speechless. At that point, I should have escalated and asked for the world. But what you realize in corporate America is you don't want to lose your top, because now all of a sudden, you know, you're in a chokehold or got a knee on your neck. So you just got to breathe in and take the burden and just self-correct or correct people around you. And that's what I did. My second example, and I promise only to give two, I've got hundreds. My second example is in a boardroom in London, England. I'm at a board meeting raising about $1 billion for global rollout for hosting centers. This is back in 2003. And in the room are the board members for this very large multi-billion-dollar corporation. And many of the big brands you know are on the board with their CEOs. And as I'm making the presentation, I asked one of the people in my group to provide some color on the financials. And this individual, as he was presenting, and I'll forgive myself in advance, but I want to use the words. We were going through the example, and I guess a UK colloquialism or story is, in the United States, you've heard this phrase, the fly in the ointment. That's obviously where the problem is. This particular individual, who was in my group, decided to use the phrase, the nigger in the woodshed, in front of some of the largest corporation CEOs you can experience. Needless to say, it's another one of those moments as a Black man where you just say, what just happened? Did he actually just say those words? And he was in my group. So things happen. I can assure you things happen post that meeting. I won't talk about those things. But those are, Akilah, a couple of examples of my experiences in corporate America. Now, I've had wonderful friendships. I've had great success. But you asked me specifically, what was it like to experience sort of racism in corporate America? There's just a couple of my examples.
Right. No, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. And it's definitely a different path as a Black man in corporate and as a Black woman in corporate. Either way, though, we've all experienced these, you know, inappropriate comments, and we have to keep our cool, right? Especially as a Black man, Vernon, because for whatever reason, you're viewed as a threat. And so I appreciate you sharing that. That's really important that folks understand. There's a lot of times we've been in awkward situations where we just have to keep quiet and just keep our cool.
And, you know, the unfortunate thing about that, Akilah, is that goes all the way back to slavery, right? It's the if I do get the job in the house and not in the cotton fields, boy, you better be careful what you say and keep your head down. And, 400 years later, seriously? We're still having this conversation?
Yeah. And it's infiltrated into corporate, into every aspect of our lives.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you for sharing that. Nicole.
Yeah, as Vernon mentioned, there have been a number of instances, but the first one was the one that still really cuts me to the bone even to today. And that was early on in my career. I was finishing up at school. I was working at a nonprofit organization doing administrative duties. And I was done with marketing. I was done with my marketing education. I wanted to move into that department. And it just so happened there was an entry-level opportunity that became available. So I went to the hiring manager and I sat down with her and I said, hey, I see that there's an opportunity here. It's entry level. I've been working here for a couple of years now. I'm finished school. I would love to apply for that role. And, she sat back, she looked at me, she was quiet for quite some time, and I didn't know what she was thinking. I kind of thought she was thinking, I guess we might have to go through the motions of have her go sit through an interview and what can we do to help transition her. But instead, after a long silent pause, she said to me, I think it's in your best interest that you stick to a field that more people of your color are prominent in. And I to this day, I'm still shocked that somebody had the nerve to say something like that.
We hope you enjoyed that episode. Some of these things are hard to hear, but we need to share them, and please share on social and post nonetheless. So thank you so much to Akilah and to all of our panelists. In our next episode, which we hope you will also watch and share, we're really opening up a dialogue, and the panelists will explain why now is the time to have this conversation and hear more of their experiences.